1991, a year etched in memory, a year that reshaped the world. The Cold War, a decades-long struggle, was nearing its end. Global power dynamics hung in the balance. From the ashes of empires, new nations would rise. This is the story of 1991, a year of profound change. The world watched as history unfolded. The Soviet Union, a superpower, teetered on the brink of collapse. Its vast territory held a mosaic of cultures and republics, long yearning for independence. In the Middle East, tensions flared. The Gulf War would test the resolve of the international community and reshape the geopolitical landscape. Technology, ever evolving, was poised to connect the world in unprecedented ways. The internet, once a tool for academics and researchers, was about to enter homes and businesses, ushering in a new era of communication and information sharing. Amidst these seismic shifts, social and cultural norms were also being challenged, reshaped, and redefined. 1991 was a year of endings and beginnings, of triumphs and tragedies. It was a year that tested the resilience of the human spirit and set the stage for the 21st century. This is the story of that pivotal year, a year that continues to shape our world today. For decades, the Cold War cast a long shadow over the world. Two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, engaged in a high-stakes ideological struggle. Nuclear arsenals grew, and proxy wars erupted across the globe. But by the late 1980s, the Soviet Union, burdened by economic stagnation and internal dissent, began to crumble. In 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Soviet Union dissolved. Its 15 republics, once bound together by the iron fist of communist rule, declared their independence. The Berlin Wall, a potent symbol of division, had fallen 2 years prior. Now, the very foundation of the Soviet Empire crumbled, signaling an end to the Cold War. The dissolution of the Soviet Union had profound geopolitical consequences. The United States emerged as the sole superpower, but the world was no longer defined by a bipolar power struggle. New actors emerged on the world stage, eager to assert their newfound independence. The fall of the Soviet Union also marked a victory for democracy and freedom. Across Eastern Europe, former Soviet satellites embraced democratic reforms, ushering in an era of newfound liberty and self-determination. The world watched in awe as the Iron Curtain lifted, revealing a new era of hope and possibility. The collapse of the Soviet Union sent shockwaves through the former Soviet republics. Each nation grappled with the challenges of establishing new governments, economies, and national identities. For some, the transition was relatively peaceful. For others, it was marked by conflict and uncertainty. In the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, independence was met with joy and celebration. These nations, forcibly incorporated into the Soviet Union after World War II, had long yearned for freedom. Their independence movements, suppressed for decades, finally triumphed. Other republics faced a more turbulent path. Ethnic tensions, simmering beneath the surface during Soviet rule, erupted in violence in some regions. Economic hardship and political instability became the norm in many newly independent states. The legacy of the Soviet Union continued to cast a long shadow over the region. The transition from a centrally planned economy to a market-based system proved challenging. Corruption and crime flourished in the absence of strong institutions. Despite these challenges, the fall of the Soviet Union marked a new chapter for the people of the former Soviet republics. They had tasted freedom and were determined to build a better future for themselves and their children. As the Cold War ended, a new conflict erupted in the Middle East. In August 1990, Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein invaded neighboring Kuwait, claiming it as a province of Iraq. The international community condemned the invasion and demanded Iraq's withdrawal. The United States, under President George H.W. Bush, assembled a coalition of nations to liberate Kuwait. Operation Desert Shield, a defensive military buildup, began in August 1990. In January 1991, Operation Desert Storm, a massive air and ground offensive, commenced. The Gulf War was a decisive victory for the US-led coalition. Iraqi forces were routed from Kuwait, and Saddam Hussein's regime was severely weakened. The war demonstrated the effectiveness of modern military technology and the importance of international cooperation. The Gulf War also had significant political and economic consequences. The United States emerged from the conflict as the undisputed global superpower. The war also highlighted the strategic importance of the Middle East and its vast oil reserves. Section 5. Echoes of Conflict. The Gulf War may have ended swiftly, but its echoes reverberated throughout the region and beyond. The conflict had a profound impact on the Middle East, shaping its political landscape and leaving a legacy of instability. In Iraq, Saddam Hussein remained in power despite his military defeat. The country faced international sanctions and internal strife, leaving its people to grapple with the war's devastating consequences. The conflict also led to the displacement of millions of people, creating a humanitarian crisis. The Gulf War also had a significant impact on U.S. foreign policy. The United States, emboldened by its military victory, adopted a more assertive role in the Middle East, intervening in regional conflicts and seeking to promote its interests. This interventionist approach would have far-reaching consequences in the years to come. The war also highlighted the devastating environmental impact of modern warfare. Iraqi forces set fire to Kuwaiti oil wells, releasing massive amounts of toxic fumes into the atmosphere and causing widespread pollution. The environmental damage from the conflict continues to affect the region today. The Gulf War serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the enduring consequences of war. It also underscores the complex challenges of international relations and the need for diplomacy and cooperation to address global crises. Section 6. The Digital Dawn Breaks. While political and military conflicts dominated headlines, a technological revolution was quietly unfolding. The internet, once a niche tool for academics and researchers, was about to transform the world as we knew it. In 1991, Tim Berners-Lee, a British scientist at CERN, introduced the World Wide Web. This groundbreaking invention made the internet accessible to the public, opening up a world of information and communication possibilities. The digital age had dawned. The implications of the internet were far-reaching. It broke down geographical barriers, connecting people across continents in an instant. It democratized information, making knowledge readily available to anyone with an internet connection. And it fostered innovation, paving the way for new industries and business models. The early 1990s witnessed the rise of internet service providers, dial-up modems, and the first web browsers. People flocked to computer labs and libraries to experience this new phenomenon. The internet was no longer a futuristic concept, it was becoming an integral part of everyday life. The digital revolution was just beginning, but its impact was already being felt worldwide. It promised to connect people, empower individuals, and transform the way we live, work, and interact with the world around us. Section 7. Connecting the world. The internet's transformative power lay in its ability to connect people across geographical boundaries. With each passing day, the world seemed to shrink as individuals, businesses, and communities embraced the digital realm. Email, once a novelty, became a primary mode of communication, allowing for instant correspondence across vast distances. Newsgroups and online forums emerged, providing virtual spaces for people with shared interests to connect and engage in discussions. The business world also recognized the transformative potential of the internet. Companies established online presences, enabling them to reach a global audience. E-commerce platforms emerged, offering consumers a new way to shop for goods and services from the comfort of their own homes. The internet's impact extended far beyond communication and commerce. It revolutionized education, providing students with access to a wealth of information and learning resources. It transformed healthcare, enabling telemedicine and remote patient monitoring. And it reshaped entertainment, with online gaming, streaming services, and social media platforms emerging as major players. The world was becoming increasingly interconnected, and the internet was the driving force behind this digital revolution. It was a time of tremendous excitement and possibility as people around the globe embraced the transformative power of this new technology. Section 8. Culture in Flux. The year 1991 was marked by significant cultural changes. The fall of the Soviet Union and the rise of the internet had a profound impact on global culture. The collapse of the Iron Curtain led to a cultural exchange between East and West. People were exposed to new ideas and ways of life. Western music, fashion, and entertainment flooded into former Soviet bloc countries. Eastern European art, literature, and film found new audiences in the West. The internet also played a role in shaping global culture. It facilitated the spread of information and ideas, transcending national borders and cultural barriers. Online communities emerged, connecting people with shared interests and passions, regardless of their physical location. The early 1990s saw the rise of grunge music, a genre that reflected the angst and disillusionment of a generation. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden became cultural icons, their music capturing the zeitgeist of the era. In fashion, the grunge aesthetic, characterized by ripped jeans, flannel shirts, and combat boots, became a symbol of rebellion and anti-establishment sentiment. 1991 was a year of cultural ferment, a time when old norms were being challenged and new ideas were taking root. The world was changing rapidly, and culture was evolving alongside it, reflecting the hopes, anxieties, and aspirations of a generation on the cusp of a new millennium. Section 9, 1991, A Legacy Forged. 1991 marked the end of the Cold War and the Soviet Union, and the rise of the Internet. It was a year of upheaval and opportunity, reshaping the geopolitical landscape and accelerating technological innovation. The legacy of 1991 continues to shape our world today,